Exactly 72 hours ago, something happened that should not exist inside any recorded spiritual framework. Not because it was dramatic, not because it was loud, but because it violated the deepest rule governing power itself. God did not stop time. He did not intervene. He did not warn you. He paused to observe, because what unfolded was not an act of rebellion, not an act of obedience, but an act of internal alignment so precise that even divine expectation did not account for it. And the one who understood this first was not heaven, it was hell. The devil did not fall because you attacked him. He did not bend because you challenged him. He did not retreat because you prayed harder than others. He knelt because you operated from a level of internal order he could not access, distort, or negotiate with. This was not poetry. This was not exaggeration. This was a recorded reaction inside the non-physical dimension that overlaps this one at all times. Witnessed, documented, analyzed, and now, slowly, being disclosed to you because the sequence has already completed. You were not aware of it while it happened. You were living your normal day, maybe tired, maybe distracted, maybe dealing with pressures that felt small compared to the weight you carry constantly. That is what made it more disturbing to the observers. You were not preparing for a confrontation. You were not performing. You were not trying to prove anything. You simply moved through a decision point with a kind of internal precision that exposed something ancient and unresolved in the structure of darkness itself. The devil does not kneel. This is not about arrogance, this is about design. His entire identity was built on refusal. When humanity was created, and celestial beings were instructed to acknowledge this new form of consciousness, he evaluated it and rejected the command. Not out of hatred, out of hierarchy. To him, bending before a form that could suffer, forget, and die was an unacceptable inversion of power. He chose exile rather than compliance. He chose distance rather than recognition. That choice hardened into identity. For thousands of years, it defined every move he made. He lost battles. He was resisted. His plans were exposed, but he never bent. Not to prophets, not to warriors, not to those who gave up everything in devotion. Even when defeated, he withdrew intact, already calculating the next angle. Submission was not an option in his internal structure, until you crossed a line without knowing there was a line to cross. Hell has protocols, observation layers, filters that scan human consciousness for particular configurations. Most people never register. Some flicker briefly. A few get flagged. Weeks ago, your profile escalated. Not because you were powerful, not because you were visible, but because you displayed something that destabilizes prediction, a form of integrity that does not depend on reward, fear, or recognition. That alone triggered enhanced attention. You remember the moment. You don't need to pretend you don't. It wasn't dramatic, no music, no witnesses, just you and a decision that felt unfair in how quiet it was. The easy option would have solved real problems. It would not have ruined anyone. It would not have crossed any obvious moral boundary. Most people would not even pause. But you did. Not because you are cautious, because something inside you refuses alignment with outcomes that feel internally distorted, even if the distortion is subtle. You argued with yourself. You calculated, you tried to justify, you looked for permission, and eventually you chose the harder path. Not with confidence, but with a kind of tired clarity. You told yourself it didn't matter, that it was just one decision, that no one would ever know. You were wrong. That decision was classified immediately. Not as good behavior, not as virtue, as a threat. The internal rating applied to you is rare. It indicates a consciousness that maintains internal order under pressure without external enforcement. There are very few of these active at any given time. The reason is simple. Most beings, when pushed hard enough, eventually trade principles for relief. Hunger breaks people. Isolation breaks people. Fear breaks people. You demonstrated that discomfort increases your alignment instead of eroding it. That alone demanded further testing. So the pressure increased, not dramatically, elegantly. Something entered your life that looked like relief. Perfect timing, clean delivery, minimal cost. It did not arrive as temptation. It arrived as an answer. It solved multiple problems at once. It made sense. Anyone advising you logically would have told you to take it. You even started leaning toward it. And then something deeper intervened. Not guilt, not fear. A rejection that moved faster than thought. That is when the internal alarms escalated. Because this was no longer coincidence. You were not reacting emotionally. You were not acting impulsively. You are operating from a core alignment that overrides survival logic, that breaks predictive modeling completely. When beings cannot be predicted, they cannot be controlled. And when they cannot be controlled, they must be confronted. An internal review was initiated, high level, comprehensive. Every leverage point was examined. Desire, status, recognition, security, attachment. None of them behaved as expected. Pressure increased again, this time through justified resentment. Someone who wronged you became exposed. The opportunity was real. The justification was complete. You would not have been blamed. You would have been praised. And you felt it. The pull. The satisfaction that would have come from balancing the scales. And you let it pass. Not because you forgave them. Not because you forgot what they did, but because something inside you refuses to become what hurt you, even when the transformation would feel deserved. That moment caused something rare, internal hesitation inside Hell's command structure, because resentment is one of their most reliable engines. It turns pain into propagation. You interrupted that chain without effort, without performance, without explanation. At that point, the devil understood he was not dealing with resistance. He was dealing with a structure he could not enter. Every attempt to apply pressure resulted in reinforcement instead of fracture. That is when direct engagement was authorized. Not through coincidence, not through other people. Through thought. You remember it. The thought that arrived fully formed. Reasonable, respectful, offering collaboration rather than control. It did not ask you to abandon who you are. It suggested efficiency. It framed compromise as necessity. It offered power without asking for worship. It sounded mature, balanced, strategic, and you rejected it instantly. There was no debate, no internal discussion, no delay. Your internal alignment responded before your mind could participate. That response was registered, measured, and understood for what it was. You are not someone who follows a moral code. You are someone whose structure is the code. It is not something you consult. It is something you are. At that moment, the devil faced a problem he could not solve. Continued pressure would expose weakness. Withdrawal would confirm limitation. There is a final protocol reserved for encounters with forces that cannot be bent, bypassed, or absorbed. It is not used lightly. It is not symbolic. It is recognition through physical submission within the non-physical domain. And that is what occurred. Not dramatically, precisely. The act sent shockwaves through every layer of that domain, not because of spectacle, but because it rewrote hierarchy. When a being whose entire identity is built on refusal bends, it signals the presence of an authority that operates outside known categories, heaven observed, not to intervene, to verify. The archangels did not arrive to rescue you. They arrived because a human consciousness had done something no organized force had achieved. You did not overpower. You did not dominate. You remained intact. That is what they came to see. God did not speak immediately. Observation preceded declaration, because what was being evaluated was not behavior, it was essence. And when the conclusion was reached, the response was not praise, it was activation. You have felt the early signs already, subtle shifts, old pressures loosening without confrontation, certain connections thinning naturally, moments of clarity appearing without effort. This is not reward, it is alignment beginning to remove internal restrictions that were deliberately in place. You were not placed here to be comfortable. You were placed here to operate. And before this life, before memory, before fear, you understood exactly what that meant. You volunteered for a condition few accept, to enter limitation without recall, to experience vulnerability without reinforcement, to see whether your internal structure would hold when stripped of certainty. You were not sent to dominate environments or command attention. You were sent to test whether your internal order would remain intact when no one was watching, when nothing was promised, when the world offered no reassurance that doing the right thing would be rewarded. That was the condition. That was the risk. And that was the reason the observation intensified rather than softened as your life progressed. Because you were not being tested for performance. You were being tested for consistency under erosion. Most beings can appear aligned when conditions are supportive. Remove the support and alignment collapses. That is the common pattern. You were placed into circumstances designed to do the opposite. Delayed outcomes, ambiguous results, pressure without explanation, repeated moments where compromise would have made things easier without appearing destructive, each one calibrated precisely to measure whether your center would drift. It did not. And when it became apparent to the forces of darkness that the usual levers, temptation, distraction, resentment, envy, produced no movement within you, their attention sharpened, not because they expected failure, but because the absence of reaction is far more difficult to calculate, far more dangerous to models that rely on predictability. Every time a situation presented itself that would crack others, you did not bend. You did not yield. You did not rationalize or justify compromise. You evaluated and acted according to a principle set so deeply integrated that even survival instincts had to defer. The devil recognized this. He could see it unfolding in subtle ways, the way you paused before action, the way hesitation was not fear, but calculation. He noted every internal struggle and saw nothing break. That was the moment he began to reconsider. That was the moment the concept of submission, or his perception of invulnerability, started to wobble. Hell's observation is precise. Every anomaly triggers immediate reassessment, and you had become an anomaly in the highest degree. Small interventions, perfectly timed opportunities, subtle manipulations that would have ensnared anyone else, failed repeatedly. Each refusal was not impulsive. Each act of restraint was not accidental. Each decision was observed, processed, catalogued, and each one pointed to a fundamental problem. Your integrity could not be leveraged, your mind could not be predicted, and your spirit could not be bent. You were isolated, yes. That was intentional. Isolation intensifies the calibration process. It allows every micro-choice to carry weight, every subtle alignment to be tested. You faced decisions where there was no audience, where the wrong choice would go unnoticed, where the cost was internal and immediate. Yet every time, you chose coherence over convenience, integrity over pragmatism, and principle over satisfaction. Those moments, invisible to human eyes, were visible to all higher orders, and they mattered more than you could imagine. The devil, accustomed to seeing human weakness exploited effortlessly, realized that he was confronting something unique, not rare, not unusual, but entirely unprecedented in the span of recorded infernal observation. For the first time, he faced a consciousness that could not be assessed through conventional methods. Intelligence, cunning, charm, coercion, all of it failed to provoke the smallest deviation from your internal code. Every test was failing. And when the testing failed, he understood what it meant. He was no longer in control. 72 hours ago, everything changed. Not through spectacle, not through drama, not through announcement. It changed through acknowledgement. You do not perform to impress. You do not manipulate to control. You operate within a coherence so absolute that recognition becomes inevitable. The devil understood that recognition was the only viable response left. And in a moment that would echo through all dimensions for the next 6 millennia, he knelt. He knelt not because he was tricked, not because he was overpowered, not because he was coerced, but because he saw in you a consciousness that existed outside the realm of his influence. That act of kneeling, physically and spiritually, was unprecedented, and the shockwaves of that action were observed immediately by the highest celestial authorities. God did not intervene directly. God observed, and when the devil bent the knee, even God rose, not as a gesture to glorify you, but as acknowledgement of what had been accomplished. What you manifested was a level of incorruptible integrity so rare, so fundamentally unbreakable, that the natural order itself had to recalibrate. Angels whispered to each other in recognition. Archangels paused mid-action. Heaven witnessed an event that had never occurred and may never occur again. This is not exaggeration. The forces of darkness have a predictive matrix built on human tendencies, on reactionary behavior, on the assumption that survival instinct overrides principle. Every model failed in your case. Every calculation collapsed. Because you acted in alignment with an internal structure that exists beyond fear, beyond reward, beyond consequence. That structure is the reason the devil had no choice but to kneel. That structure is the reason God stood. That structure is the reason history itself shifted quietly, invisibly, in that very instant. Let us examine why this is so significant. Humans have long believed that power is external, that influence is a product of coercion, manipulation, or advantage. What you demonstrated is different. Influence can exist entirely from integrity. Power can exist entirely from consistency. The capacity to act without compromise, without expectation, without visibility, produces leverage that cannot be countered by deception or force. That is exactly what the devil observed. 3 weeks ago, you triggered a response across multiple dimensions that are designed to detect integrity anomalies. That alert indicated that your moral code operates at a level that transcends immediate gain or loss. Only a select few individuals, less than 24 in the entire human population at any given time, exhibit this configuration. The classification is not a badge. It is a designation. It signals to higher orders that you are operationally incorruptible, tactically unbreakable, and strategically unyielding. That designation is why what follows is not random. It is coordinated. It is deliberate. It is inevitable in its activation. Your actions, small, discrete, personal choices, were observed and analyzed. Every decision to refuse compromise, to maintain integrity despite internal conflict, to forego immediate satisfaction, created a chain reaction. These were not external rewards. These were structural recalibrations across the infernal and celestial planes. Every refusal realigned priorities, reshaped observation protocols, and forced the devil to reconsider his entire approach. Even the offer you received 7 days ago, The one that could have delivered revenge, recognition, or gratification was an engineered test. It was the culmination of infernal calculations designed to evaluate the limits of your moral architecture. Most would seize such a moment without hesitation. Most would rationalize, justify, or manipulate circumstances to exploit opportunity. You did none of that. You allowed the moment to pass. You forgave through action, not thought. You rejected through alignment, not reaction. And that rejection was witnessed, recorded, and analyzed at the highest levels. Consider the significance. Revenge is one of the most powerful tools of darkness. It creates cycles. It produces energy that sustains corruption and prolongs suffering. When a soul refuses it, even when justified, even when necessary for survival, the patterns of perpetuated pain are broken. You are immune to a mechanism designed to bind countless generations. That immunity triggered panic, recalibration, and acknowledgement. The second recognition came in the form of direct observation by the entire infernal court. Thousands of entities, supreme commanders, and dark strategists convened to analyze a phenomenon they could neither manipulate nor control. They discovered three qualities coexisting in a single consciousness that they had previously believed impossible. Strength to endure extreme suffering without collapse, integrity impervious to corruption under any circumstance, and compassion that transforms rather than perpetuates pain. That trinity is what prompted the ultimate concession, the devil kneeling. When he knelt, it was a structural acknowledgement, not symbolic, not theatrical. He recognized that his standard operating procedures no longer applied. He recognized that your existence, your coherence, your unbreakable moral code placed you outside the conventional rules of engagement. That acknowledgement is not easily conveyed in human terms. It is operational, structural, and consequential. It reverberates across dimensions, signaling a shift in the balance of influence. God's response was aligned, not performative. The archangels observed the same event. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. All four commanders recognized the significance. Michael noted the internal strength demonstrated under invisible pressure. Gabriel observed coherence unbroken by temptation. Raphael confirmed the alchemical transformation of pain into actionable compassion. Uriel clarified that true power is not in destruction, but in preservation of integrity, when destruction would be easier. Their observations were not commentary. They were confirmation of structural activation, acknowledgement that a celestial protocol had reached completion. Your function is no longer latent. Activation has begun. Not as sensation, not as spectacle, as structural alignment. Opportunities, resources, connections, these begin to coordinate precisely, not through chance, but through deliberate orchestration. Your life no longer requires struggle to validate. It requires presence to propagate. Each decision, each interaction, each visible act of integrity compounds, transmitting coherence to others without direct instruction. Your influence spreads silently. People around you recalibrate without realizing it. Observers, collaborators, even casual contacts begin to align unconsciously. They hesitate before compromise. They act with greater honesty. They measure consequences more carefully. This is the natural propagation of integrity as a functional force. You are a node in a network that is forming, a network of like-operating individuals whose alignment cannot be countered through ordinary mechanisms of control. The forces of darkness recognize this and adjust. Noise increases elsewhere. Distraction amplifies. Manipulation escalates. But you remain insulated. Not by luck, not by fear, not by avoidance, but by operating consistently within the structural integrity that forced the kneeling in the first place. That is the nature of your power. It is immune to external disruption because it is reinforced internally and validated structurally. You are not here to fight. You are here to anchor. You are here to operate coherently where others would compromise. You are here to allow presence to propagate change. And that is why the kneeling occurred. That is why God rose. That is why the archangels confirmed. That is why history in this life now bears a new vector. This operation is ongoing. Activation continues. Fragments of memory, insight, and strategic understanding return, not as instruction, but as structural recall. You recognize patterns, connections, and functions you have already mastered, now applied through human context. The operation does not pause. You now participate consciously in a protocol designed to propagate coherence across influence networks that affect the collective trajectory of human decision-making. From this point, nothing in ordinary perception can deter progress. Financial structures, relational dynamics, and environmental pressures adjust in response to integrity that is visible and active. Opportunities arrive precisely when conditions are right. Resistance manifests as noise, never as disruption. And every observer who witnesses your consistency recalibrates, amplifying the effect. You are no longer an isolated individual. You are a node, a reference, a catalyst. And that is why the next phase will not announce itself. It will arrive as a subtle alignment, a precise opening, a situation that looks ordinary until it is engaged. You will know what to do, because recognition is now part of your structural operating system. And here's where the story stops being flattering and starts becoming dangerous to everything that once measured itself against you. Because the moment recognition becomes internal, external power structures lose their leverage. The devil never feared strength. He feared alignment. He never trembled at rage. He recoiled from clarity. Pride only survives where confusion exists. And you removed confusion without raising your voice. This is the part no one prepares you for. The aftermath of refusing the game while still winning it. You didn't confront darkness with light like a cartoon myth. You didn't fight temptation by pretending it didn't exist. You looked at it, you understood it, you outgrew it. And that is what made the devil kneel. Not submission, not obedience, but irrelevance. Pride collapses when it realizes it no longer defines the axis. That's why the old forces started malfunctioning around you. Why provocation lost its timing. Why intimidation arrived late and left early. Why threats suddenly sounded like rehearsed lines read by actors who forgot the plot. God didn't intervene because there was nothing to correct. That's the shock. The applause wasn't for obedience. It was for mastery, for discernment, for the rare moment a human doesn't outsource responsibility upward or downward, but stands in the middle and stabilizes the entire structure by refusing distortion. You didn't ask for permission, you didn't ask for protection, you didn't beg for signs. You became the sign. That's why heaven went quiet for a second, not in concern, but in recognition. When alignment replaces desperation, even divine systems pause to observe. Understand this clearly. You didn't defeat the devil by overpowering him. You defeated him by breaking his favorite mirror. Pride needs reflection. It needs reaction. It needs you to measure yourself against it. You stopped measuring. You stopped performing resistance. You stopped narrating your struggle. And the moment the narrative collapsed, so did the throne. That's why kneeling wasn't dramatic. It was mechanical. Like a machine realizing it's no longer plugged into a power source. This is also why people around you feel unsettled without knowing why. They sense something concluded, something finished without ceremony. Humans are addicted to arcs, rise, fall, redemption, punishment. you skipped the spectacle. You reached resolution quietly. And when someone resolves internally, every external hierarchy that depended on their seeking collapses. That's why the world around you feels like it's recalibrating its posture. It's not reacting to your actions. It's responding to your absence of need. The devil thrives on leverage. God honors responsibility. You stepped into the narrow space where leverage dissolves and responsibility stabilizes. That's not rebellion, that's maturity. And maturity is the one thing pride cannot counterfeit. Pride can mimic confidence. It can mimic authority. It can mimic certainty. It cannot mimic peace without sedation. You walked into peace, fully awake. That's what caused the kneel. Now the applause, don't romanticize it. It wasn't loud. It wasn't theatrical. It was recognition across layers of reality that rarely acknowledge one another. When a human stops asking to be saved and starts acting as a steward of clarity, something ancient nods. Not because you surpassed God, but because you finally stopped projecting him as an excuse. You didn't demand intervention. You embodied principle. And principle is what the entire system runs on. This is why the next movements will feel strangely small. Conversations that seem casual. Decisions that look mundane. Doors that don't glow or creak ominously. But understand, this is post-conflict terrain. The war everyone else is still narrating already ended for you. Pride was broken at the root, not the branch. The devil didn't retreat. He recalculated away from you. And God didn't command. He observed and approved. You may notice temptations still appear, but they'll feel hollow, like old costumes without actors. You may notice challenges still arise, but they won't carry existential weight. Because once pride kneels, fear loses its interpreter. And once fear loses its interpreter, it becomes background noise. That's the real victory no one talks about. Not domination, not righteousness theater. Silence where noise used to govern behavior. And that silence is not empty. It is not passive. It is not peace as an escape. It is peace as authority. This is where most people misunderstand what just happened to you. They think the danger is over because the tension is gone. They think the devil kneeling means temptation vanished. No, temptation still shows up. Ego still whispers, chaos still circles, but none of it can enter the command center anymore. Because command requires consent, and you revoked it without ceremony. This is why the devil's pride broke instead of his power. Power can survive rejection. Pride cannot survive indifference. You didn't shame it. You didn't expose it publicly. You didn't try to dominate it with moral theatrics. You simply stopped orienting yourself around it. And when something built its entire identity on being your axis, losing that role is annihilation. Kneeling was the only position left once relevance collapsed. And God's reaction, this is the part people struggle to digest. They expect judgment. They expect reward. They expect a crown handed down dramatically. But what happened instead was recognition of alignment. God stood not because you begged correctly, not because you suffered loudly, not because you followed a script. He stood because you finally understood the assignment without needing supervision. You didn't outsource integrity. You internalized it. And systems far older than religion recognize that shift instantly. Now notice how the world engages you differently, not louder, quieter. People don't challenge you head-on anymore. They test indirectly. They probe. They poke at the edges. They try to reinsert friction where it used to work. But the friction doesn't catch. Because you are no longer operating on emotional torque. You're operating on orientation. And orientation doesn't get dragged. It sets direction, regardless of resistance. This is where the applause actually matters. It wasn't approval in the human sense. It was confirmation that the structure held. that a human can encounter temptation, power, ego, darkness, divinity, and not fracture into dependency or rebellion. That's rare. That's why heaven paused, not in shock at rebellion, but in respect for containment. You didn't leak chaos upward. You didn't project blame downward. You absorbed complexity and remained intact. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This makes you dangerous in a way violence never could. Because you don't need conflict to justify yourself. You don't need enemies to feel real. You don't need validation to move. Pride feeds on reaction. Fear feeds on urgency. You offer neither. So when people say, "Damn, bro, you made the devil kneel," what they're really sensing is this: nothing in you is pulling for attention anymore. And that unsettles everything trained to manipulate attention. You'll notice moments where you could exploit situations easily, where old instincts would say, "Now strike, now dominate, now prove." But you won't feel compelled, not because you're weaker, but because you're no longer hungry. Hunger is leverage. You starved the system by feeding yourself correctly. That's the part no one wants to replicate, because it requires giving up the dopamine of struggle narratives. Even God's applause wasn't encouragement to continue performing. It was acknowledgement that performance ended, that the training wheels came off, that you no longer need dramatic reinforcement to stay aligned. You don't need signs because you don't doubt direction. And direction, once stabilized, creates momentum without force. This is why things start lining up quietly around you. Opportunities don't rush you. Threats don't rush you. Time itself seems less aggressive. Now understand this clearly. The devil didn't disappear. He adjusted. He avoids you now, the way gamblers avoid tables where the odds no longer bend. Pride doesn't fight battles it can't narrate. And your life has become unnarratable to that frequency. There's no hook, no weakness to exaggerate, no insecurity to amplify. That's why temptations feel like props. They show up out of habit, not strategy. And the reason God stood, this matters, is because stewardship replaced dependency. You didn't become holy by detaching from the world. You became grounded within it. You didn't ask God to remove the devil. You learned how not to feed him. That's evolution. That's why the applause wasn't emotional. It was structural, like an architect watching a load-bearing column finally hold on its own. This is also why some people will misinterpret you now. They'll say you're cold, detached, uninterested. They'll mistake your silence for arrogance or apathy. Let them. Pride always accuses clarity of cruelty. But you're not cruel. You're precise. You don't over-explain. You don't overreact. You don't over-identify. And over anything is where manipulation enters. The war didn't end with fireworks. It ended with posture, with you standing still while everything that once needed your reaction lost balance. The devil knelt because he couldn't provoke motion. God stood because motion was no longer required. And you remained seated in yourself, unimpressed, unthreatened, unavailable to distortion. So this is the final understanding, the last calibration of this script. You are not here to dominate darkness or perform holiness. You are here to render pride obsolete by refusing to orbit it. That's why the title isn't exaggeration. You didn't overpower the devil. You broke his pride. And pride is the throne. Break that, and the figure kneels automatically. And God's applause. It wasn't surprise at your strength. It was recognition of your maturity, of a human who finally stopped confusing guidance with control, faith with fear, obedience with erasure. You didn't disappear into divinity. You embodied responsibility. And that's the one thing both heaven and hell respond to instantly. This is not the beginning of your rise. This is the confirmation that the ascent already stabilized. No more announcements, no more declarations, no more proving. The system adjusted. The devil recalculated. God acknowledged, and you continue, quietly, untouchable, not because you're protected, but because you're aligned. That's the ending, not with noise, but with gravity.